You are standing over the ball. Your grip is fine. Your arms feel loose. You make what feels like a good swing, and the ball leaks weakly to the right and falls short of where it should. Again, here is the truth. Nobody sold me for years. It was never my hands. It was never my expensive driver. It was my hips, frozen and firing in the wrong order, bleeding away distance on every single swing. There is one simple hip drill that fixes it, and it was written down clearly more than 80 years ago before the modern lesson industry buried it under gadgets. I will show you a drill that a golf teacher described in a book from 1942, one you can do in your living room tonight with nothing but a wall. It works whether you are 25 or 75, whether you shoot in the 70s or can barely break 100. I remember the exact moment it hit me. I was on a public range outside town, having just paid $90 for a half-hour lesson, watching a teenager 2 mats down hit it 40 yards past me with half my effort. I had spent years and hundreds of dollars, and that kid had something I did not. He had learned to move his hips. I had learned to buy things. So let me start with the lie I believed the longest, because you probably believe it too. I thought the golf swing was an arm swing. I thought power came from my shoulders and my hands, from swinging harder and faster with the top half of my body. Every time I wanted more distance, I did the only thing that felt logical. I swung harder with my arms. And every time I swung harder with my arms, the ball went shorter and more crooked, and I could not understand why. Here is what I did not know. The fastest, most powerful part of a good golf swing does not start at the top. It starts at the ground, and it travels up through the hips before your arms ever get involved. Biomechanists who study this with three-dimensional motion sensors have measured it. In a skilled golfer, the pelvis begins rotating toward the target while the club is still going back or barely starting down. The pelvis leads, the chest follows the pelvis, the arms follow the chest, the club follows the arms. It is a chain, and it fires from the bottom up, like a whip cracking, and the numbers on that whip are staggering. When researchers measured the rotational speed of the pelvis in professional golfers, they found the hips can be turning at more than 500 degrees per second through the strike. Some tour players push past 700 degrees per second. That is your body's engine. And most amateurs I have played with, myself for years included, barely turn their hips at all. We slide, we sway, we stand up. We do everything except rotate that engine, and then we blame the club and go buy a new one. I bought the new one. I bought several. I want you to feel this the way I felt it, because it stings. Over about 6 years I spent, and I added this up later because I did not want to at the time, somewhere north of $2,000 chasing distance. A driver here, a set of irons there, a launch monitor session, training aids and bright plastic that promised to fix my slice, and ended up in a milk crate in the garage. $2,000, give or take, to avoid learning the one thing that was free the entire time. My hips. Because here is what none of those purchases could do. None of them could make me move correctly. A new driver does not turn your pelvis for you. It just gives your same broken motion a more expensive place to fail. And I think, somewhere deep down, I already knew that. I just did not want it to be true, because moving correctly sounded like work, and buying a driver sounded like a shortcut. That is the trap. That is exactly the trap. But let me show you why your hips stop working in the first place. Because it is not laziness, and it is not age, and understanding this changed everything for me. When you set up over a golf ball, your body is in a slightly awkward position. You are bent forward from the hips, your weight is toward the balls of your feet, and from that position, most people, when they try to turn back, do the easiest thing their body knows how to do. They sway. The whole lower body drifts away from the target on the backswing and then drifts back through, sliding side to side like a door on a track. It feels like a turn. It is not a turn. It is a slide. And a slide has almost no power in it. because a slide does not coil anything. The power in a golf swing comes from a stretch. Picture wringing out a wet towel. You twist the top one way and hold the bottom, and the tension between them is what stores energy. In the golf swing, that stored energy comes from turning your shoulders against relatively stable, resisting hips on the way back, and then unwinding the hips first on the way down. Teachers call the gap between how far your shoulders turn and how far your hips turn a separation. The bigger and better time that separation, the more the towel is wrung and the more energy snaps into the ball. When you sway instead of turn, there is no towel, no ring, no stored energy. You are just moving a stiff object sideways and hoping. And here's the part that took me the longest to accept. Swaying feels stronger than turning. When you slide toward the target, your body feels like it is putting effort into the ball. That feeling is a liar. The effort is going sideways, not into rotation, and sideways does not travel down a golf club. So the harder you try in the wrong pattern, the worse it gets, which is why so many of us plateau and then get frustrated and then, right on cue, go shopping. Because shopping feels like progress and practice feels like failure. So who taught us to swing with our arms and buy our way out? Nobody sat me down and taught me that. It seeped in. It seeped in from every glossy advertisement that showed a new club adding yards. It seeped in from an entire industry that makes almost nothing when you fix your hips for free and makes a great deal when you believe the fix costs $400 and comes in a box. I am not going to pretend there is a single villain in a dark room, but I will tell you plainly that there is far more money in selling you equipment than in teaching you a body movement you can practice against your own bedroom wall, and the marketing follows the money the way water follows a slope. It always has. Which brings me to the man who described the fix clearly, decades before any of the plastic gadgets existed. His name was Percy Boomer. He was a golf professional, born on the island of Jersey, and in 1942 he published a book called On Learning Golf. Now here is why that book matters, and why I keep a copy within arm's reach. Boomer was not writing in the age of motion sensors and force plates. He had none of that technology. What he had was decades of watching bodies and feeling his own swing, and he arrived, through pure observation, at almost exactly what the science would confirm 70 years later. He understood that golf is a pivot, a turnaround, a stable center, and not an arm swing. And he gave the world one image to teach it that I believe is the single most useful sentence ever written about the golf swing. He told his readers to imagine they were standing inside a barrel. That is it. Picture a barrel, the old wooden kind, snug around your hips, coming up to about your waist. Boomer's instruction was that as you swing back, you should feel your hips turn inside that barrel, but never bump into its sides. If your hips slide, they hit the wood. If they turn in place, they stay clear. That single feeling, the feeling of turning without touching the sides of the barrel, cures the sway that robs almost every amateur of power. It replaces the sideways slide with a genuine rotation, the wringing of the towel, the coiling of the engine, and he wrote it down for anyone to read in 1942. So why did I not know it? Why did you not know it? A book from the 1940s does not get advertised during a Sunday broadcast. It does not come with a logo or a tour player's signature or a 30-day money-back guarantee. It just sits there, quietly correct, while an entire industry grew up around selling us the feeling of improvement instead of the substance of it. Boomer's barrel does not make anyone money. That, I have come to believe, is exactly why so few of us ever heard about it. But knowing the image is not the same as owning the movement, and this is where I have to warn you about the next layer, because this is where I lost even more time. I read about the barrel and I nodded and I thought, yes, turn, do not sway, got it. And then I went out and swayed anyway. Because knowing what to do with your hips and being able to feel it under pressure are two completely different things, and the gap between them is where most instruction quietly fails you. You can be told to turn 1,000 times. Until your body feels the difference between a turn and a slide, the words just slide off. So I need to give you the feeling, not just the picture, and I need to give it to you in a way you can build tonight without spending a dollar. Now, I know exactly who is watching right now and thinking this is not for you. Maybe you are older and you figure your hips do not move like they used to. So what is the point? Maybe you've never had a lesson in your life and you assume a drill like this is for people who already play well. Maybe you are sitting in a chair right now and the idea of doing a golf drill in your living room sounds ridiculous. This next part is built specifically for you, and I mean that. What I'm about to describe requires no athletic ability, no flexibility you do not already have, no equipment, and no floor space bigger than a bath mat. If you can stand up next to a wall, you can do it. If you cannot stand for long, I will give you the seated version too. If you want to go deeper than what a single video can give you, I have written all of this out in a series of digital books. First swing for those just starting to rebuild their motion, deeper fixes for the patterns that keep coming back, and full system for anyone who wants the complete picture from setup to finish. They are available in the description below, and every page is built around the same principle you are hearing right now. Old knowledge, clearly explained, no equipment required. But let me show you why your hips stop working in the first place. Because understanding the root cause is what makes the drill actually stick. Here is the first drill, and it is the foundation for everything. Find a wall, stand with your back to it, and step forward just a few inches, then set your feet about shoulder width apart as if you were about to hit a ball. Now reach your backside back until your trail cheek, the one farther from your target, just barely touches the wall. Feel that light contact. That contact is your barrel. Now, without pushing harder into the wall and without pulling away from it, turn your hips as if you were starting a backswing. Your goal is to keep that same light touch on the wall the entire time you turn. If you sway, you will feel yourself either mash into the wall or lose contact completely. If you turn correctly, in place, the pressure stays even. Do that 10 times, slowly, feeling the difference. You have just taught your body the exact sensation Boomer described in 1942, and it cost you nothing. If standing is hard, sit forward on the edge of a firm chair, feet flat, and simply rotate your belt buckle to the right and then to the left, keeping your head fairly still over your center. Even seated, you are training the pelvis to rotate instead of drift, and that pattern carries straight into your stance when you stand back up. Now let me add the second half, because the backswing turn is only the loading. The magic is in how the hips start the downswing, and this is the piece that separates a weak slap from a powerful strike. Stay right there against your wall. From the top of your little turn, I want you to feel your lead hip, the one closer to the target, clear back and around toward the wall behind you, as if you were opening a gate, not sliding toward the target, turning open. In a real swing, this is the move that fires first, before your arms come down at all. The pelvis opens, the chest gets pulled around, the arms get slung through, and the club arrives last, moving fastest, exactly the way a whip cracks at the very tip. When I first felt my lead hip clear instead of my arms yanking down, I hit a shot on the range that startled me. It was quieter at impact, and it went farther. Less effort, more ball. That is the sound of the engine finally doing its job. And I want to put a number on what that engine is worth to you, because it is not small. When golfers learn to sequence properly, to let the hips lead instead of the arms, it is common to add real club head speed, and club head speed is distance. Teaching studies and launch data consistently show that adding just a few miles per hour of club head speed can add roughly 10 to 15 yards with a driver. Learning to stop swaying and start rotating can find you more than a few miles per hour. For years, I was leaving 20, 30 yards on the table on every drive, not because I was weak, but because my engine was disconnected from my wheels. 20 or 30 yards is the difference between hitting a short iron into a green and hacking a long iron out of trouble. Multiply that across every hole, across every round, across every year, and you start to see the true size of what the sway was costing me. It was not costing me distance. It was costing me the game. But there is a deeper cost, and it is not about yardage at all. And I did not understand it until my back started to hurt. When you sway and slide instead of rotating around a stable center, you do not just lose power. You put your spine in a bad spot. A slide, followed by a desperate arm-driven lunge at the ball, loads the lower back in a way it was never built to handle. Over and over, swing after swing. I spent a couple of seasons with an ache on the trail side of my lower back that I blamed on getting older. It was not age, it was pattern. Once I learned to rotate inside the barrel to let the big muscles of my hips and trunk do the work they were designed for, the ache faded. Physical therapists who work with golfers see this constantly. The lower back pain that plagues so many amateur players is very often not a back problem at all. It is a hip problem. The hips are not rotating, so the spine is forced to do the twisting the hips refuse to do, and the spine pays the bill. Think about that. The same broken movement that was stealing my distance was also grinding down my back, which meant I was paying for it twice. Once in yards, once in pain. And the fix for both was the same free drill against the same free wall. The industry sold me a special back brace at one point. $40. I did not need a brace. I needed to turn. So let me widen the lens. Because by now you might be wondering how something this clear, this cheap, and this well-documented could stay hidden from ordinary players for so long. And the answer is not a conspiracy in the dramatic sense. It is something quieter and honestly more insidious. It is neglect by incentive. Nobody profits from telling you the answer is a wall in your bedroom. Everybody profits from telling you the answer is the next purchase. And so the true answer does not get suppressed with force, it gets suppressed with silence. It simply never gets amplified, never gets advertised, never gets the money behind it that a new club gets. And so it fades from common knowledge even as it sits in plain print in a book from 1942 that almost no one under the age of 60 has ever opened. I want to take you back into that book for a moment, because Boomer understood something about learning that the modern lesson never gave me. He wrote that golf must be learned by feel, by controlled sensations in the body, and not by a head full of mechanical instructions. He was warning, decades in advance, against exactly the kind of teaching that failed me. I had my head stuffed with positions. Keep your lead arm straight. Get the club parallel at the top. Cock your wrists here, uncock them there. 10 different thoughts, none of them connected, all of them fighting each other over the ball. Boomer said that was backwards. He said, give the body a single true feeling, like the barrel, and let the feeling organize the mechanics automatically. The pros who study motion with cameras and sensors today have essentially proven him right. The good swing is a sequence you feel, a wave that rolls from the ground up, not a checklist you assemble in midair. And that is why the wall drill works when 1,000 words of instruction did not. It is not information, it is sensation. It puts the correct feeling directly into your body where it can actually take hold. Now I promised you the finale. And here it is, because there is one more piece to Boomer's method that ties the whole thing together, and when I found it, buried in the same old text, it was the thing that finally made everything click. It is the part almost nobody quotes, even when they mention the barrel, and it is the real secret. Boomer did not just say turn inside the barrel. He said you must also feel the barrel is fixed to the ground and that you brace against it with your feet. In his own words, the golfer should feel the pull of the turn brace through the feet into the ground, as if the lower body were anchored while the upper body coiled against it. He was describing, in 1942, with no force plates and no science to lean on, the exact phenomenon that modern researchers now call ground reaction force. When today's biomechanists wire up a tour player and stand them on sensor-embedded plates, they find that great players push down and into the ground and twist against it, and the ground pushes back, and that push from the earth travels up the legs, into the rotating hips, and out into the ball. The ground is where the power actually comes from. Boomer felt it, and named it as a barrel braced to the floor 80 years before the machines confirmed it. So, here is your complete finale drill, the one you can build this week, that puts all of it together and that no shiny gadget can sell you. Stand at your wall, trail cheek lightly touching, feet shoulder width, knees soft. First, press your feet down into the floor so you feel connected to the ground like your feet have roots. That is the barrel anchored. Second, turn your hips back inside the barrel, keeping that light, even pressure on the wall, coiling your upper body against your braced lower body. Feel the stretch, the wringing of the towel. Third, without letting your arms take over, feel your lead hip clear and open, pushing down through your lead foot into the ground as you unwind. Ground, coil, clear. That is the whole engine. Do it 10 slow times a night against your wall, and in a couple of weeks the feeling will be yours. Then take it to the course and let your arms just come along for the ride. I did this. I did it in a hallway, feeling slightly foolish. My heels a few inches off the baseboard, night after night, no club in my hands. And the first time I took it to the range afterward, I hit a drive that carried past every marker I had struggled to reach for years, and it came off the face with that quiet, heavy sound that means the engine finally connected to the wheels. No new driver, no lesson. No plastic aid from the milk crate in the garage, just a movement a man wrote down in 1942, kept alive in a book most people never open, handed now to you. So here is what really happened over all those years. I was not a bad golfer. I was a disconnected one. Sold the idea that the answer was always one more purchase away, when the answer was a wall and a feeling and a barrel that cost nothing. You just took back something the marketing spent a lot of money hoping you would never look for. And that is who you are, if you have watched this far. You are the kind of person who would rather own the movement than rent the illusion, who would rather learn the thing that lasts than buy the thing that fades. That instinct is worth more than any club in your bag. So tell me one thing in the comments, and be specific, because I read them. When you did the wall drill for the first time, did you feel yourself swaying into the wall or pulling away from it? Slamming in or drifting off tells me which pattern has been robbing you, and I will reply. Just write sway or drift and one line about what you felt. If you are done paying for what earlier generations already figured out and quietly gave away for free, then come with me, because this channel exists to dig these buried methods back up one at a time and put them back in your hands where they belong. Next time, I am going to show you the forgotten grip pressure secret from an old professional's notes, the one that quietly fixes a slice without changing a single thing about your swing path. You will not believe how simple it is, and I promise you have never been told it. Stay with me, and let us keep taking these back, one lost method at a time. Before you go, one thing. This video showed you the idea, but inside my membership, the Old Ways Almanac, I walk you through the whole thing, step by step. And if something isn't clicking, you can ask me directly, and I answer you myself. Not some machine. You'd belong with thousands of practical folks just like you. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. Cancel anytime. Come join me.